Oh boy. There she is. Teresa. Teresa Ionitis and team in the Contracting Center of Excellence, a team that used to report through this organization years ago, and now, as Jim says, they keep coming back. Right, Jim? We're not sure why. So anybody on this team, please stand up. And I'm going to ask you to stay standing. Welcome back, Aaron. And it's not fair to just single out certain efforts, but I would really say, and again, a team that's undersold their highlights. I mean, new contracting tool, Aptis. I got the pleasure of taking on this responsibility with about a month left to go, and you know, I just kept saying nice things to Teresa, and she got through it, and I think we're successfully, for all intents and purposes, integrated. Yes. Maybe a little more confident. Yes. Come on, that's a huge accomplishment. I mean, that standardizes, you guys can sit down, I won't make you stand all day, I'm sorry. I mean, it did mess up PVA Pari, as I saw this weekend, but we'll be okay with that. I mean, I'm really proud of this organization. I've known Teresa for years. Teresa, what am I?
Exhausting.
I'm exhausting, that's what she told me. Now I said, now you work for me, you just wait. At the end of the day, that was a monstrous integration into that system. They handled it with just the utmost class that I could imagine, not to go without a lot of stressful moments through that, and it was done pretty much flawlessly at the end of the day. So very proud of this team. Not to lose sight on the people who actually work on RFPs for us at the end of the day. You know, and they do that across national markets, alternate care, you know, if it's large enough, independent, any of the requests for proposals that we get. Might have a new one coming their way not too far from now, potentially. That's interesting. And the team that also supports down in Houston, if I have that correct, the solutions business. So welcome to the team, or back to the team, I guess, right? Sales automation and WindWatcher. How many people are here today, I see that work in the WindWatcher department? You can stand up. I'm not trying to embarrass you. Well, welcome to the team. I want to welcome you guys as well. So for those of you who don't know Steve, he lives down in the Texas area and is more than likely online. And you know, they have a mobile application, which again was, you know, again, I wish I would have had that when I was in the field, but that's fantastic. The new AAP calculator, so AAP is the largest retail independent buying group, for those of you who don't know, for Steve Lawrence's class of trade, ton of generics, ton of sales, and how the new deal compares to the older deal, as well as how they can get more generics, which is what a lot of our profitability is about, is what this team works on. Salesforce automation, from pipeline management to market territory size, to sales compensation, to compensation exceptions, to a variety of other things run. I'm way oversimplifying this tool. Not to mention probably being, well, a lot of us are, but I can say these guys really have been the PMOD 2's best friends over the last couple of months as we look towards Salesforce.com. And the good news is, what I didn't know is Dan Anello is married to Lisa Regret, which I did not know, so nothing like having leverage over the PMOD team now. Just joking, Dan, who's not here. But that one was an interesting, that caught me off guard the other day. So welcome to you guys. All right, now to some of the older crowd. And I'm going to make everybody stand up because they don't know you guys either, just because you're not new. So Angie Bechtel and team. Don't be shy. Oh, vote. And you guys can sit back down. I'm sorry, I don't want to make sure everybody knows who you guys are. So Angie, Megan, Ryan, and their teams, well, Ryan's team is much more remote than Megan's team, has gone through, and you can read the amount of change they've just been in this year. I'm actually going to call out one special point. Actually, one of the things that I'll come to in a little bit is the sharing of talent across these two organizations, I think, is a benefit. And Andrea, I'm not going to single you out and make you stand up one by one, and I can't see it, but Andrea, oh, there she is in the back, just came from the COE over to this department. So there's a first step of one person that she's waving in the back, coming across. But this team has been through a lot of change over the last 3 years under Angie's leadership, and Ryan's leadership as well. You know, I think of, bouncing all over the place here. I think of some of the things Ryan's team's accomplished, from, the CVS GLC process, from days and days to minutes, is just fantastic, as well as the day in, day out activities of ensuring our accounts are set up, ensuring that they are set up correctly, they're audited appropriately, being that front line of entry, transitioning into a pod structure, which other classes of trade are now looking at to see if they can emulate, is a fantastic testament to the things that they've done and leaned out. And as Jim sort of said, as we get lean and mean, Jim always says, a testament to figuring out how to do things better with less resources and higher quality at the end of the day, which is sometimes very overlooked in this organization. So thank you for staying, Megan. Oh, brother. All right. The National Markets Acute team, who most of the people in the field up here, except for some of the leadership groups, are Jessica, Jen's teams, Kathleen in the room. Stand, please. Sorry, I'm not going to have to say stand every time. Jessica's way in the back. There's Kathleen. No Eric today. Well, thank you, guys. So, you guys just got for those of you who attended the huddle yesterday, I think they did a very nice job for what I was in the room for, being able to show what the value that they provide to the, Brian Ellis's organization, who couldn't be here today. I don't think he's not come, has he? Okay. Brian and Bill's organization. And this is a group of people that handle the, acute class of trade. I mean, what are they at now? 25 billion-ish or something like that. Between the shared resources under Kathleen's leadership, the split dedicated resources, management under Eric and Emily in the field, who's not here today, across the nation, and Jen leading the CCG resources, as well as the Mayo/Captus resources, as well as some unique relationships within where we don't necessarily have somebody to represent the account because it's a national account, so that's why it fits into our world. They take care of Brian Ellis's people day in and day out. Tough conversations going on in that class of trade through the organizational structural changes that have been made over about a year and a half ago, and continue to support that group of people. So thank you to them. Vita, of course, couldn't be here today, but who is here on the account management for alternate care and community health centers? Sarah's in the back, Aaron's over there, Pam's here today, Lisa's on vacation. Thank you for saying, yeah, thanks, Chris. So, Lisa couldn't be here today. Pam is here. Of course, Vita, as you all know, is doing great, by the way. On leave, won't be here for us this year. But what a year I think that she's been through to see how far she's come health-wise, which is the most important thing, guys, at the end of the day. That's what it's all about. To have Lisa in a structure today, it looks like a little bit outdated slide. Apologies, Nick. At the end of the day, Lisa leads the alternate care team, supports Brad Cochran's organization for the people in the field. These are large nationals in the alternate care or closed-door pharmacy space, for those of you who don't know, which is a growing market class of trade with us, which is very, in my mind, is very, very similar to the acute class of trade. I think a model for how they should structure. And of course, the CHC team, which has been through a variety of different changes this year, with the sales team running under the leadership of Brad Cochran, but Angela Perry ultimately at the end of the day. While they're not represented from a selling perspective in this room here today, the account management organization led by Pam, which I know there's a laundry list of things down the right-hand side. I mean, that changeover did not come without risk, and not only did Angela Perry, but Pam lead that and lead the teams through with style, dignity, class, keep the customer satisfied, and take it to new heights. So great job and awesome work by that team in FY18. I don't think Jay's here because he gets to work on Optum. Jay, did you make it yet? No. Anybody from the mail order team even here? Lisa is. Anthony is. Molly is. So Jay's team leads the mail order space, which of course everybody thinks of them for the most part as Optum, but is I think the team that could stand up and tell you there's many more customers than just Optum, regardless of who they buy. They haven't bought them all yet, right? But at the end of the day, very complex, very challenging class of trade. Jay is currently working on the integration of the Genoa business, which we have, and trying to get that turned over in a, him and Chris working on turning that over in what we hope would be 30 days and turned out to be, which this team always rises to the occasion. They got 5 days, so, but they're back hard at the office working to see that integration over. I'm almost out of slides here. Lastly, although it's an aggregation, is the retail, national, and regional chains led by Teresa, Susan, who's not here, and Ashley. I know Ashley is here. Can't miss Ashley. If we work on this team. Hey, Betsy in the back. So this is traditional, retail. I think last year was a landmark year for this group across, and really was a lot of the tailwinds behind the success back in FY18. If you look at the onboarding of Ahold, Giant Eagle, new business, so we usually just gloss right over a Titanic customer called Target that we brought on. The operations team to have centralized CSAUS is something that I think we've been talking about for Jim way before me, but I mean, God bless, you've probably been hearing that for how many years? 25 of them. From even still having the ability during some tough market conditions with customer consolidation, I look at, what Mike's done with the leader program through Kmart, and that's a rather profitable thing for us. And even as Fred's looks to be getting sort of gobbled up right now, at the end of the day, they're still our customer, and we still treat them with the high-touch service model that differentiates us in the marketplace, excuse me. I think that's it. All right, so before I do that, hold on. I'm going to come back. As I was going through this here today, I also wanted to say, while they don't, report up through the account management or sales operations organizations, there are two other groups in the room that I thought that we should recognize and make sure everybody knows. So I'm looking at the state government sales team and the state government support team. So I'm going to ask the state government team to stand up. There's Holly in the back. So Wendy isn't here with us today. For those of you, and I know there's no visual here for this, but I didn't want to lose sight on the state government team, where I'm not that close to it and probably couldn't do justice of everything you guys accomplished this year, because as you can see, I've been busy. But at the end of the day, very large customer, mostly MCAP, individual state governments, very profitable customer base, highly complex, and definitely making headwinds and getting back some of the business that I know they want to get back. I consistently hear from Wendy on Monday mornings when we speak about the good things they have going on in their pipeline, and their never-ending, tireless chase after the state of California, which Alex laughs over there. And Ohio. Jim wants Ohio back, too. He's getting tired of that one. And then there's one last group that I don't think that this would be possible without, and I want to thank, and it is the actual, and I'm going to tell them to stand up despite being embarrassed probably, the sales team at the end of the day. That's Jim. And Jim Combs in the back. Andy, Chris, and Jim, and I guess Craig, is he still on vacation? Yeah, so Craig Corwin, who's not here. So, for the people that report up through Jim's structure, we wouldn't be here at the end of the day without obviously having customers that we have contracts with that will buy from us across a lot of those. And I would say, while not here, and for those of you who work a lot with me, I spend a ton of time with Steve. This is like miniature Steve's home away from home right here. So, and Brian's, to be honest. I spent a lot of time with Bill Hayden and Steve Lawrence and those selling organizations, while not here and formally represented. They couldn't be successful without what everybody in this room does all day, and we couldn't be successful without what they do all day in the field, working with the customers, selling new business, keeping the business that we have, which, as we all know, renewing customers is the number one thing for this team to get done, because you don't want to lose the business that you ultimately have at the end of the day. It's your most strategic customers. How'd I do on time, Ashley? All right. I think we're together now, Jim, correct? Come on up, Jim.
Am I mic'd?
You're mic'd back up.
So I would also like to thank Andrew. Can we give Andrew a round of applause? I am very blessed, given to and delegated to Andrew, and so, and it's like I tell Andrew and I tell Debbie, and I used to tell John, what I love to do is sell. I love working on. As Andrew says, he can always tell when I'm, working on a big deal, because I'm in a good mood. So when I'm really in the heat of negotiating a big deal or working on a big customer situation, that's where I thrive. And so Andrew's done a great job of stepping in and making sure that everything runs really well. So I appreciate that. But one of the things that we wanted to talk about, and this list may look familiar to you. And so I know I see Ashley shaking her head, yes. You've heard Mike and Jorge talk a lot this year about it's not business as usual. A lot of that relates to what I talked about earlier. in that there's a lot of things going on in the marketplace right now, and it's challenging us, and we're trying to figure out some solutions to these things. So it's not business as usual. But the list that we have up here is very similar in concept to the list that Mike has put out there that he feels is important for Cardinal Health right now in an environment where it's not business as usual. The interesting thing about this list is it was put together by many people that are in this room 3 years ago. And it's a list that we spent a lot of time focused on back in FY17 when we were trying to figure out, what were we going to do to really set national markets apart and to help Cardinal Health going forward. Just like Mike uses speed, grit, lost in the team as his three, things that he focuses on every year, and he's been talking about those for 10 years. I felt that I wanted to be consistent with these things because I can't think of anything else I'd want to take off this list and put on this list as we think about priorities for FY19. So if you think about what we need to do in order to get back, into that period of going up the mountain, we need to make sure that we hit our numbers. And so the number one item that I always have on my list, and I've always had on my list, is FY19 financials. As I mentioned earlier, right now, 1 quarter in, we've still had 3 quarters, so heavy lifting to do yet. But 1 quarter in, they're on target. We want to exceed them if possible. We have a really, really good track record in national markets of exceeding our targets. And so we're going to try and do that again. But never lose sight of looking forward, looking to the future, FY20 and 21. We need to start, laying the groundwork. Okay, what does 20 and 21 look like? Believe it or not, in like 3 months, we're going to be budgeting for FY20. It's almost hard to believe, but we're getting to that point where we're going to start thinking about FY20. So the first thing I would mention is we need to hit our numbers. That's my commitment to the organization, that we'll hit our numbers. They are really big numbers if you look at what we're responsible for from a financial perspective. But as Andrew points out to me, this team, in addition to just delivering the financial numbers that the national markets team has to deliver, which is, $60 to $70 billion of top-line revenue, this group that is not necessarily directly in the national account space, you guys have to make sure that we're taking care of all the other customers that make up the other, $25 to $30 billion of PD's volume. So it's an important task for all of us to make sure that we're hitting our financial targets. Andrew, do you want to talk a little bit about number 2, because I think that's really your bailiwick.
Yeah. Bailiwick, I like that word. Word wealth. I forgot something, and I'm going to back up before I get there. I'm going to embarrass her. Renee DeCerbo. That's the one person who wasn't named. There she is. So she is the loan manager that, and I didn't want to leave her out. I mean, the speed to impact that she's brought to the ISF, a variety of things, Renee, I could go on, but just the immediate results of the gatekeeper process you brought. I mean, I shared with Ashley the results of that, the feedback from Mike McMahon and team. I mean, instant completion to something they've been asking for 7 months, done in like 3 weeks. Fantastic. Thank you, Renee. So as I was standing there, I'm like, I'm sorry, Renee. I know he said it's okay. So what's my bailiwick, Jim?
Excellence.
Oh,
Excellence.
Oh boy. Oh, brother. It's a low bar. So continuing pursuing excellence. So this one, I was talking to Angie Bechtel today, and I think we have some more conversations in a good way, right, Angie? But it's our identity, I think, in this room. For those of you from 3 years ago, Jim and I had some interesting meetings in John's office quite a few times early in my tenure in this role. I mean, how short people's memories can be, but it wasn't that long ago that I don't think Jim and I could keep ourselves out of John's office. And walking in there with a significant pricing issue that would not only cost the company, and when you're talking about number one, pricely, to hit our targets, I mean, to be able to not have pricing errors that lead to paying customers back. And these are things we don't budget for, and these numbers were very sizable. I mean, we're not talking about like 20 or 30 bucks here. I mean, we're talking about tens and millions of dollars in unplanned loss to the company to have been on now, and Jim, you want to knock on wood or should I knock on wood? Knock on wood, Jim, because I know you need to knock on
This
something
might
when
be
I say it.
plastered.
To be at like, what are we at now? 9 quarters without a significant financial penalty is something that, Jim just challenged me to get 1 quarter under my belt, I remember. So you can knock on wood, but I think that's a fantastic achievement at the end of the day. I think there's some areas that I'd still like to bring that to, but we can't rest on this one. This is our identity. Jim's number 2 thing behind bringing in the financial targets. I agree with it. I'm aligned with it. I think it's a year we get back to the basics and ensure that we have that tightened down. But what I wanted to say before I turn it back to Jim for cost conscious would be, not only do you lose money there, but the trust that we lose with our customers is just a thing that I don't think that you can put a price tag on at the end of the day. I mean, I don't want to just always think about CVS, but just the way the conversations have turned from my first time I went through QBR, I haven't been to one in a little bit, but to where they are today, but also just across our customer base. I think we could all think about how painful it was to have to go to a customer because they lose that trust and that you're trying to be their partner during tough times. And I think having this right builds confidence in our customer base, and it's recognized at shows like NACDS and places where Jim, Debbie, Mike Kaufman will see customers, Chris sees customers, and it's a really, I get a little bit, I want to say choked up because I don't know if I do that, but at the end of the day, definitely reminiscing about the hard work that went into. We can't take our foot off the gas, but it's critical.
Thank you. And keep in mind, this is also on Mike's priorities for the year in terms of his top priorities. That's why, as you go through the list, you'll understand why I didn't feel the need to really change it, because I do believe it's right on target with what Mike and Jorge want us to be doing, and it goes even beyond that. The next one is one cost conscious. We, as business people, we always have to be cost conscious, particularly in a business like pharmaceutical distribution. It's a very tiny margin business, and that's there's no room for error. Pricing errors is the thing, one of the things we're responsible for. But just managing costs for a business is a discipline that everybody needs to have, and we're really good at it at Cardinal Health. You've seen some of the actions that have been taken this year, as painful as they are. That's part of business. And then you've probably heard a lot of discussion around the ZBM or ZBB that's going to be taking place over the next few months. The zero-based mindset, the zero-based budgeting. I'm not exactly sure how that's all going to roll out. Andrew's had a little bit more exposure to it than I did, but it's like taking what we've done even one step further around really evaluating our business to make sure we're running as cost effectively as we can. The thing that I was really proud of, that as we went through this last kind of reduction here over this summer, that we really weren't impacted much in my group. And there's a reason for that. And the reason for that is, for the last 2 years, this has been our list, right? And cost conscious and SG&A management has been a discipline that this group has had. And so we had already been managing to extremely efficient levels of headcount and cost management and bringing on new business. And so it helps to bring on a Giant Eagle and a Target and Ahold, Hometown, and everybody we brought on over the last year and not have added a headcount. And so we were able to get through this in pretty good shape. And so I think all of us need to continue to remember being cost conscious is important. And that includes, Chris, you've got to have the itemized receipt when you have breakfast at the airport, okay? That's should I tell the story about the cheese sandwich? I'll just tell you a quick story about the cheese sandwich. Everybody knows I go down and work out at lunchtime. The person might be in here, so I don't want to embarrass them, but I'm going to. So I was standing there getting dressed, getting ready to go back up to the office, and I heard, because now we have to keep itemized receipts for everything. If you buy a pencil, you better have an itemized receipt for it. And I heard that one young man saying to another young man in the locker room, man, I had like a $31 bill for a lunch when I was traveling. I didn't have the itemized receipt. This is a real pain. And they said, well, why didn't you keep an itemized receipt? And he goes, well, I didn't want my boss to see that I had 5 beers and a cheese sandwich for lunch. And I thought, that's probably why we have the itemized receipts. But anyways, I thought that was funny. So the
You want me to take the
things I hear.
Yeah, the next one's yours. You got to go.
Have a nose for money. I'm sorry. Have a nose for money. This is something, for those of you who haven't heard it, a lot of you have heard it, but for those of you who haven't heard it, having a nose for money simply means when we were back in the old buy and hold days, back in the, when we were buying and trading product in the open market, this is kind of a saying that Mike Kaufman, myself, Sid Geller, all the guys that were doing this back then came up with, which basically means always be thinking of a way to make more money doing what we're doing. And for us in this room, salespeople think about it a lot, but all of you can be thinking about it. I don't care if you're in retail independent or in state government or community health center or wherever you are. How do we sell more source sales? How do we come up with new business? That may be solutions, that may be, anytime you're talking to a customer, you're selling. Retail, retaining, that should be retaining. Retaining current customers, driving creativity. This is important for all of us to think about how do we sell more stuff to our customers and make more money. Have a nose for money. Andrew, you want to talk about number 5?
Help customers in this difficult time. I was hoping you were going to do that one, but okay, I can do that one. No, I'm just joking. I mean, you have listed there telefarm, source sales, managed care connection, consumer. Oh boy. It goes more than just that, helping customers in difficult times. Our customers, as Jim talks about, every single one of our customers could take, at the beginning of the presentation today, Jim had pulled off the Google machine, the picture of the mountains and the troughs. But every single one of our customers in every single one of the classes of trade would be able to put that exact speech up in front of us today, at least in